You know, when a story gets so bad that you think surely, that must be the worst of it. And then someone opens a second door, and behind that door is another scandal. And behind that one is another door. And it just keeps going like the world's worst game show. That is Keir Starmer's week. And today, a former top civil servant opened a door that Number 10 would very much have preferred stayed shut forever. Welcome back to British Reform. Buckle up, because this one has everything. So, the Foreign Affairs Select Committee was already a fairly dramatic place to be this morning. Sir Olly Robbins, the former head of the Foreign Office and the man who approved Peter Mandelson's appointment as U.S. ambassador, was giving evidence. The country tuned in expecting a grilling about Mandelson, the security vetting that was overruled, the Epstein links, the atmosphere of pressure from Number 10 to rush the appointment through. And they got all of that. Robbins confirmed there was, in his words, a very, very strong expectation that Mandelson needed to be in post in America as quickly as humanly possible. He described a generally dismissive attitude from Starmer's office toward the security vetting process. He said the whole situation was deeply uncomfortable. And at that point, you might think, well, that's damaging enough for one morning. Job done. Thanks, Sir Olly. But then a committee member asked him a question about other political appointees. And Sir Olly Robbins, under oath, answered it honestly. And what came out of his mouth has completely blown the story open in a direction nobody was expecting. Number 10, it has now emerged, pressured Sir Olly to find an ambassadorial posting, a head of mission role, for Lord Matthew Doyle. For those not immediately familiar with that name, Matthew Doyle was Keir Starmer's Director of Communications at Number 10. Starmer personally gave him a life peerage, meaning he became a lord just 1 month before this ambassadorial push was happening. So this is not some distant figure. This is one of Starmer's closest political allies, freshly elevated to the House of Lords on the Prime Minister's personal recommendation. And here's where it gets worse. Much worse. Lord Matthew Doyle was subsequently suspended from the Labour Party after it emerged that he had actively campaigned for a man named Sean Morton, a former Labour councillor who had been charged with child sex offences. Doyle campaigned for Morton after those charges had been filed. Morton later changed his plea to guilty in court and was convicted. Doyle has since apologized, saying that at the time Morton had repeatedly asserted his innocence to those around him, and that not ceasing support before a judicial conclusion was a clear error of judgment. Fine, he has apologized. But the core fact remains. Starmer gave this man a peerage and then pushed for him to be appointed to a senior ambassadorial role in the British diplomatic service. And here is the detail that really sets this apart from ordinary political embarrassment. According to Sir Olly Robbins, when Number 10 was pushing him to find this ambassadorial role for Doyle, he was operating under strict instructions not to tell the Foreign Secretary, not to tell David Lammy, the actual Foreign Secretary of the United Kingdom. The minister whose department oversees every British ambassadorial appointment was apparently being kept in the dark about his own Prime Minister pushing a role for a politically connected peer with no diplomatic credentials whatsoever. Robbins said the situation was, his word, uncomfortable. Sir Olly Robbins, a man who spent his career navigating Whitehall's most sensitive corridors, found this uncomfortable. Think about what that tells you. He was equally blunt about why he resisted. He told the committee he found it very hard to think how he could explain to the Foreign Office what the credentials were for Matthew Doyle to hold an important head of mission role. Essentially, this person has no qualifications for this job. I cannot defend this appointment. And the whole thing risks driving experienced career diplomats out of the service. He pushed back. He told Number 10 it would be very hard for him personally to defend. And thankfully, the appointment did not happen. But the political shockwaves from Robbins simply disclosing that it was attempted are enormous. Because what this reveals is not a one-off misjudgment with Peter Mandelson. What it reveals is a pattern. Ed Davey, the Liberal Democrat leader, said it plainly within minutes of the testimony ending. Not content with appointing Mandelson as U.S. ambassador despite his Epstein links, Starmer tried to appoint another man with a known friendship with a sex offender. His conclusion, and it is one that is gaining significant political traction, is that this is not a lapse in judgment. It is a pattern of behavior. Kemi Badenoch went further on Mandelson, telling reporters that Robbins' testimony is devastating to Keir Starmer, and that it is now absolutely clear that full due process was not followed. She said the Prime Minister has misled the House of Commons, which, under parliamentary convention, is a resigning offence. Starmer has denied misleading Parliament. But the gap between what he told the Commons and what, say, Olly Robbins told the Foreign Affairs Committee this morning is a gap that his communications team is going to struggle enormously to close. Let's be clear about what has happened today. The Prime Minister of the United Kingdom has been revealed by a former senior civil servant giving evidence under oath to a parliamentary committee to have pushed for a second controversial political ally to receive an ambassadorial post, a post the man was unqualified for, while secretly keeping the actual Foreign Secretary out of the loop. On the same day that the same civil servant confirmed political pressure was applied to override security vetting concerns for Peter Mandelson. On the same day that Starmer already admitted his Mandelson appointment was wrong. All of this on one Tuesday morning in April 2026. That is the state of this government. And we will be watching every single development here at British Reform. Hit subscribe and stay with us, because in British politics right now, the next door is always just about to open.